So I'm staying in Ireland at the moment. I'm living on a road, and there are two very different approaches to living on this road. One guy, his house is covered in security lighting, and there's a sign that says this house is protected by CCTV, closed circuit television, and there's another big sign that says no parking, access required to this house 24 hours a day. So that's one approach. There's another approach that there's no signs, nothing, nice little wildflowers growing everywhere around the house, and the doors are left open, they're not locked, and people come and go. So there are two different approaches to living on the very same road. So my film, The Beekeeper, the film that I want to make with David Lynch, is a road movie. And it's about a particular approach to life. It's a road movie of the heart, a journey of the heart, and its ups and downs. And it's about this guy called Mr. Hyde, who it's based on a true story, who goes to Norway to see the midnight sun, the sun that never sets. And he travels there on his motorbike called Honda, and it has a sidecar. And whilst he is travelling around Norway, all sorts of things happen to him which kind of open his heart to life even more. But when he gets back home, something cataclysmic, truly cataclysmic, happens to him, which he has to deal with. The Beekeeper is also a love story, a deep love story between him and his bees, and also it's a love story between human beings. So Mr. Hyde is basically an amalgam of two people. There's Mr. Hyde himself, and there's another man, a beautiful man called Bob Barlow. Bob Barlow I've never actually met. He used to make tapes in which he would read poetry or sometimes sing poetry. He sang Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright. It was quite beautiful. And he'd intersperse these poems with music, classical music often, or some beautiful Russian singing, Russian choir. And Bob Barlow's tragic story, he obviously had some mental health problems, and they took his dogs away. He had 3 dogs, and not only did they take them away, they had them put down. And this was just too much for Bob. He committed suicide. He hung himself. Yeah. And Mr. Hyde, well, he's also real. I guess he was in his 60s when I knew him. A memory I have of Mr. Hyde is he was virtually blind, and I was leading him. He wanted to go outside. He hadn't been outside for a long time. So I led him by the arm, linked arms, and we went down to his allotment. And I described the vegetables and the plants to him. They need a bit of watering, or beans are looking good, or you've got some green fly here, or some white fly. And I remember he asked me about the cabbages, and I said they look wonderful to me. They look round and healthy. And, you know, he couldn't see. He bent down and caressed these cabbages with his hands. He was just very, very tender towards them. Yeah. The film, however, isn't a tragic story. It's a movement by Mr. Hyde into a state of, I guess you'd call it, angelic grace. But it's obviously very difficult to go into that in a short film. Hopefully it will have some kind of poetic resonance with people and their own lives. So the script of the film has still got plenty of room in it for newness, but the skeleton, the basic skeleton, is there because it's based on what actually happened. So people have asked me, why David Lynch? Well, at the risk of sounding pretentious, it's because David likes Federico Fellini, and the film The Beekeeper will be Fellini-esque. It's got dream sequences in it and some quite surreal moments. There's also Louis Buñuel, who I admire, and Andrei Tarkovsky, the Russian film director, who involves a lot of poetry in his work and a lot of imagery, symbolic imagery. Anyway, you did ask. So people have asked me, why David Lynch? And David, of course, your films. Early on I saw Eraserhead, which was quite marvellous. Then of course there's Blue Velvet, with the well-dressed man. Twin Peaks. And I really enjoyed The Straight Story, which in my opinion is one of the greatest love stories ever made. It would be in my top rankings. So that's why David Lynch. So this film is a pure gamble, really. It's a message in a bottle thrown out on the ocean, and to see whether it will bob along and somehow land on David Lynch's shore. And we'll see what happens if it does. I walked and walked, and as I walked I fell, and as I fell I walked again, till in the end I flew.